this video, I want to share with you how I'm creating my YouTube tutorials. In case you want to make tutorials yourself or you're just interested in how I'm going about it, kind of behind the scenes. I'm going to talk you through the steps and then I'm going to show some B-roll on top, kind of give you the idea of what I'm talking about as well. So the first step is getting the idea. And I do have a video where I'm talking about how I'm coming up with these ideas, especially when I'm running out and what I'm falling back on. But essentially, I'm trying to figure out what I can use as an idea to create a video that is good. And the ones that I love the most is the ones coming from you guys, questions that you're asking, or when I have my one-on-one sessions with students or people who contact me who wants to have some sessions in learning color grading, and then really getting into those ideas. So the idea that we're talking about today as an example is my color balancing for beginners video. So the idea came from a student asking me on a call to explain how the color balancing works. And even though it was included in my course on how you do it and how everything comes together, there's just a lot of information, so it can be difficult to comprehend. And I also think it's a thing that took me a while to understand. So I came up with the idea, and then I kind of just wanted to get an intro going where I talked a little bit about a few of the basic things that you need to understand to get color balancing, and then jump straight into the tutorial without rambling too much. So that was kind of the idea. To do that, I was scripting a little bit before, so you'll see that in my Notion now, just kind of getting that intro in. And the way that I'm working is that I will write these things down in Notion. For the most part, I will just talk through it. I will script it right before I start recording if possible, and then I have it fresh in mind. So I don't really need to sit and read from it. And sometimes I'll just have my phone with Notion on it here, and then I can read through it then. But for the most part, I will just write it down, and then I will go straight into recording so that I have it fresh in mind and I can just kind of jump into it. Then from there, I'm setting up everything that I have here, and it's pretty simple, the setup I have right now. I'm just going to record that on my shitty iPhone, which has a broken camera. So you can see here that the camera is sitting here on a tripod. This is where I would be scripting and editing. And then we just have the Modus X100 with a softbox on here, and the Modus X100 without anything on there, shining up on the wall and just giving me a nice exposure. The camera here is showing zebras to make sure that I'm exposed correctly. Normally I would have a monitor up there, but the cable that I had broke, so I need to get a new one. When I've sat down and recorded my intro, the next step is then to record the screen. So I'll usually say something like, let's head into DaVinci Resolve and get started. And then I will turn off the camera, I'll like stop recording, and then I'll switch to my computer and I'll start screen flick, and I'll minimize or like move up the screen a little bit. And if I haven't done it already, then I'll set up whatever I'm doing. In this case, putting in the clip, making sure everything is ready in DaVinci Resolve before I get started, and having that clear idea of what I'm going to do. Sometimes if it's a larger thing, I'll script it down in steps in Notion before I get to this point. And most times I already know what I'm doing. I know the workflow that I'm going through because I've done it so many times. So it's easy for me to just dial it in by sitting down and then going through the workflow or creating the note tree beforehand. So kind of having that idea. Sometimes it's a bit scripted, sometimes it's just going off of my experience. Then when I'm done recording, I'm gonna export it from ScreenFlick, and then I'm gonna put everything into DaVinci Resolve. So you're seeing that on screen now. I'm dragging everything in, I'm making sure it's aligned, I'm recording the audio when I'm doing my screen. I'm recording with my DJI mic here that I have on my chest. It's connected to the camera now, but then when I start recording my screen, I'll just record internally to the microphone, drop all the files in, sync the audio from my microphone to the recording that ScreenFlick does for microphones in my MacBook, and then I'll start chopping away. The first step for me before I start doing that is to color grade the talking head, just so that I don't have to copy it through a lot of clips. So that's the first step that you're seeing now, applying a lot, my little workflow and doing that. I have a video on how I do that too. And then I will make sure that the audio is nice. So I've already synced that up, and I'll make sure that my preset is on. That is just a guide I found on YouTube as well. I'm no audio expert in voice and stuff. And just make sure everything aligns nicely, that the audio levels are good. And then I will start chopping away. So I'll start cutting up all the gaps that where I'm not saying anything or where I'm making mistakes, because usually I'll make a mistake and then I'll stop and then I'll re-record that sentence and then I'll continue, and trying to get the mouse or my position to where I was before. So the chopping or like the moving around either in the screen recording or here in real life is as little as possible. Then from there, when I've chopped everything up, I'm pretty much done with my tutorial. Only thing that I do, if I didn't do it while I was chopping, sometimes I remember to do it, is put markers throughout the video, because then I can export that so that it goes directly into the chapters of the video, and that makes it super easy to work with YouTube afterwards, so I don't have to sit and mark everything and figure out where things are. So that's pretty much the workflow. The export settings is just choosing YouTube that I've signed into from DaVinci Resolve and then upload in H.265. That's all I'm changing, apart from the normalization as well. And then it's in YouTube. When it's uploaded, it's processed. Then I'm going in to create a thumbnail. That's either going to be a super simple one or a little bit more advanced depending on the topic. And I create that in Photoshop. And when I'm done with that, uploading that, creating the tags in YouTube Studio, putting in the title, make sure everything looks nice. When it's done processing, I'll schedule it, and then I'm done. So that was boiled down pretty much the workflow that I'm doing when I'm doing a tutorial. It usually takes me anything between 2 and 6 hours to complete a tutorial, from scripting the idea to being finished with the video, which doesn't sound like that much, but I've been doing so many tutorials and I've been color grading for such a long time now that that's just kind of how I've dialed everything in and how I'm used to doing it now. So if you have any questions to any parts of the workflow that you like explained more, feel free to leave a comment down below. I'm always happy to help or answer any questions, or maybe make a video on that topic. I hope that gave you a nice little overview of how I'm going about these things, and I hope you enjoyed it. With that said, I don't have any more for you today. So until the next time, take care.